My name is Joe Barrett. I'm one of the owners of Applegreen, and we employ 1,600 people between Ireland and the UK. We have 120 petrol service stations, which include 6 big motorway sites and then a lot of smaller traditional service stations. And they're very much based in the local community, and we're involved in our community wherever we go. Over the last 4 years, we've donated 540,000 to charity. And we very much see ourselves as being part of that community and giving back to charity. And one thing about smuggling that upsets us is that it has a threat to those local jobs. Each one of our sites employs an average 20 to 30 people, and if a smuggled fuel operator comes into the market, we could lose up to half of those jobs just because of loss of volumes and loss of margin. But generally what has happened, what fuel smuggling is it's taking agricultural diesel and it has been brought to remote areas in the country, the dye is taken out of it, and then it's been sold as legitimate diesel for cars and trucks. The issue with it is that it has taken out any of the good chemicals and oils from the fuel, and it can cause huge damage to the engine of a car. So while somebody might say, oh, that's a very cheap fuel and it's a fantastic deal, the reality is that in a very short period of time of maybe 20 fills, 30 fills, it can actually ruin an engine of a car, and it could cost you over 10,000 euros to replace the engine of a car. The problem's always been there. I think in fairness to the revenue commissioners and the customs, they've been able to track down a lot of illegal operators and close them down. And what we're finding now is that the problem is now going back closer and closer to the border, and it's much more in our northern site locations is where the biggest impact is. One never knows for certainty who's behind it, but generally it is the subversives on both sides of the tracks in the north who tend to be behind this, and with that it ends up they're leading into also the other crimes of theft in other areas, which is a huge issue, because this tends to fuel other crimes from bank robberies, general thefts, break-ins, that sort of stuff. Just recently in Waterford there was a big find that would have cost the state over 50 million euros. So it just shows you that it's the tip of the iceberg. But if you bring it back to a site, if we have a site where you've a fuel smuggler has opened up nearby, the reality is that to try and stay in business, you have to cut your price, and then you lose your margin. As a result of losing your margin, you can't afford to pay the same wages. So generally speaking, it's in cost of jobs. So you could end up in a small site losing 4 or 5 jobs, and that's 4 or 5 jobs in the community, which also leads to 1 or 2 other jobs in the related sector. So that's the real impact. In most cases, we're open 24 hours, and we're there when people need the bottle of milk, the bread for sandwiches for school lunches and things like that, and we're there as part of the community. And when you see so many other businesses like post offices and banks closing, it tends to be ourselves and the convenience store industry that are acting as that touch point for customers in the local community. Yeah, but generally speaking, the sort of the detritus of when you launder fuel, it leaves very, very bad, harmful chemicals that are left lying around in fields and in trucks, and it's seeping out of tanks into the ground, and that causes a huge problem. And to try and clean that up is a very, very big cost to the local county councils. These are really harmful chemicals. Generally speaking, they're very, very strong to take out the colouring dye within the fuel. So as a result of that, they're very harmful to the environment. Every time they find one of these laundering plants, it can end up being a few million euros of a cleanup cost just to get rid of the toxic waste in a satisfactory environmental fashion. But you know that saying, if it looks too cheap, it is too cheap, and that's the reality. This could be a very, very short-term gain, and cause huge harm to the engine of your car. And we hear that quite a lot. We have people ringing ringing us up saying, oh, I got to fill a fuel in your station and my engine is now damaged. And we're saying it doesn't happen with just one fill, it is the constant filling up of this illegal fuel that causes huge damage to engines. And we had one story 2 or 3 months ago where somebody came in with a brand new BMW car, and they'd been buying this fuel and they'd needed a whole new engine, and it was €15,000 to change the engine. Now, that buy cheap, buy twice. That's the that's the rule, and I think you have to be very cautious and be very aware. And I would certainly advocate stick to brands like Applegreen and the other branded competitors that you know as a customer that you're getting the right fuel that is a trusted fuel source. Log on to stopsmuggling.ie. Let's all work together to stop smuggling.